So how's it going, my comics and army? We're here today with Jason Douglas, the creator of Parallel, Jane American, and now Jane American graphic novel. How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me back on. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh yeah, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Like I tell everybody about your interview. I'm like, go watch the interview with Jason Douglas, and this is how you do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So what have you been doing since the last time we talked?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, like you and I were talking off air. I mean, life just happens, right? It's been about a year, and stuff just keeps on moving forward, right? And it's like a blink of an eye, it goes by. And I've been teaching, and I've been writing, and I've been promoting the book, and building the Kickstarter, and writing a new book. And good Lord, sending kids off to college, and dealing with three teenagers at home. You name it, I've been at it.
Yes. I I see you've been making a very good um Comic Con run.
Yeah, yeah. It's way back at the beginning when you and I have had this conversation about like the dream come true way back in the parallel days where that thing got out in the world, and every single step along the way was the first time the 12-year-old me just elated because getting to experience this thing that I dreamed about since I was little. um I think one of the surprise is the wrong word, but one of the most pleasant parts of this process is the getting out to cons and meeting people face to face. And again, something else you and I were talking about off the air is it's been kind of amazing how much the skills of being a teacher in the classroom translate almost directly to being somebody who's at a con for 3 days or 2 days or all day or whatever it is that you're doing. And I just love it because it's the thing that I do all day every day anyway, which is teach somebody about, and then hang out and chat and figure things out, and be human together, as opposed to like locked in the basement in front of a keyboard creating the thing. It's very pleasant to be out in the world and say, here it is. So yeah. Yeah, quite a few shows and conventions and signings and stuff over the last over the spring and summer, and actually leading into the fall too, and it's been exciting.
And how's been the feedback on the book? Positive?
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, look, there's a couple of things that I've really learned about myself as like as a at least as a comic book writer over the last couple of years, and one of them is that I'm pretty sure as a writer, the stories that I'm writing, because I'm a comic nerd at heart, are always going to be wrapped in some kind of recognizable trope or genre that a lot of us love in comics. In Parallel, it was dark sci-fi, and with a hint of horror, and with Jane, it's obviously a superhero story in some respects. But like at the core of everything that I'm writing are these universal, relatable themes that everybody can kind of get behind, and find something about themselves in. And when you write like that, and do it from the heart, people are going to hopefully be able to connect to the book. So the feedback's been really, really good. And I've really, really enjoyed putting the Jane American one shot into people's hands, and now promoting the graphic novel, because it is much closer to like an all ages book. And so the audience kind of expands, and I get to talk to families and younger people in a way that you're not necessarily putting Parallel into like a middle school or elementary school. Again, you've read it, you know why. And so that's been kind of fun, and obviously something that's within my skill set because of the education background.
Are you going to go back and revisit Parallel or do a part two?
Oh God, no, 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 no. That story wraps up the way it wraps up. I mean, the special edition, that you can still get on Amazon, and still get in bookstores. And I've got a few copies left that I'm dragging around with me, but very few. I mean, that's got that 8-page story in the back that's exclusive to the special edition. That kind of dives back between the panels, but doesn't go beyond that last panel. I mean, that story, I like bang for your buck, and I like rereadability. And the way that story, it has its beginning, it's got its middle, it's got its end, and then it kind of loops back on itself because it reads very differently the second time through, but very much self-contained.
Okay. Do you want to give them the elevator pitch for Jane American?
Oh heck yeah! So Jane American is a World War II coming of age story. It takes place in historical Plymouth, Michigan, which is where I grew up, and my parents and my grandparents. And during the war years, Jane is kind of like living a life of family and stability and hope until she's not. until war brings tragedy to her front doorstep and everything changes. And she's changed in unbelievable ways that are better left hidden. Okay? Wink, wink, hint, hint, nod, nod. We know what we're talking about. But there's economic realities at the end of the war. Dad's not coming home. Society says mom can no longer be a Rosie the Riveter. So Jane is left with this choice. She can stay safe, she can stay hidden, or she can embrace who she really is and what she can now truly do for the sake of everybody that she loves. Okay. Look, like I mentioned, it's a book that is chock full of these universal, relatable themes about identity, gender, self worth, self fulfillment, being who you are in a world that maybe tells you something different. Okay. But it's also this deeply personal story to me because it is named after and inspired by my late grandmother who went through all of that stuff 80 years ago. It's dedicated to every single kid who's gone through my classroom the last 25 years who still struggle with those questions of identity today. And now, much more freshly, it is dedicated to my late grandfather, who just last year at the age of 99, when he realized he wasn't going to make it to 100, made me promise that the book that contains the name and likeness of his high school sweetheart would see print. So part of this is me fulfilling that promise to him. Now, my promise to anybody who goes and backs Jane American on Kickstarter today, our new 132-page graphic novel, The Full Adventures of Jane, is this book will break your heart in spots. It will get you up and cheering, and it's going to leave you with, as dark as it gets in spots and as real as it gets in spots, it's going to leave you with a message of positivity and hope going forward.
Hell yeah. So they don't need to read the one shot to read this, right?
No, no, not at all. In fact, I think something that's very, very unique about how we did the one shot into the graphic novel, because I don't know how much I've talked about this, but like that was not the original plan. The original plan was to go from parallel into Jane American. And like I've mentioned to you before, and people who know me know, like because all this was relatively new for me, right? Like I have been a fan and a reader of comics exponentially longer than I've been a creator, right? And so like even though I'm the age that I am, it was all new, and there was so much. I was so naive on so many things. One of them being like when you go from a company picks up your comic, which is parallel and takes care of a lot of the heavy lifting and legwork about getting out into the world, which is not how comics are. You know, it's a very atypical story. You and I have had that discussion. When you go then the way that the vast majority of comics are made in the 21st century, which is crowdfunding at first, right, through a platform like Kickstarter, and then putting out in the world and seeing if it grabs a publisher or something. Nobody told me, I didn't know that like how cost prohibitive 130 some page graphic novel would be. I mean, that's like that's a $20,000 plus campaign. And no matter what amount of goodwill or success, or even like the Ringo nominations that Parallel got, doesn't translate on your second book into that being a feasible way to make the book. Okay. And so smarter people than me, more experienced people than me were like, no, what you got to do is you got to do a one shot first, because what it does is it's proof of concept on one level, right? It's a more affordable campaign. It shows you that you can do the process, because it would have been my first one. And maybe if it's successful, it creates an opportunity to go on and do something a little bigger. So the one shot actually wasn't planned on coming first. And what's really, really cool about people who love the one shot, it's not something that you've got to read first, because all of the story beats, all the important things, and the stuff that people love about the one shot, it's in part one of the graphic novel. But it's not just here's what I love, because I would have felt a little too cheap, a little too easy. It's not a direct transfer. There are two major differences, and this is what I love about it. Number one, because Annie Wright, my artist from Indiana, still only 22 years old, a kid genius in my eyes, has improved as an artist so much over the last year. She completely redrew all those pages and panels that people love from the one shot. Okay, so it has so much more depth and feeling to it. It's amazing. But the best part is it's not presented like the one shot is just tacked onto the front of this graphic novel. It's the same story beats, but it is told in different order, the original order that I wanted it to tell. So like the analogy that I've been making lately is like, it's like revisiting a movie you loved as a kid. Okay. But through adult eyes, where the context changes. It's not like going back and saying, oh, I liked that as a kid. Now I know why. No, it's like rediscovering it because now that it's presented in a different order, the things that you thought you knew, the things that you thought you loved for a reason when you read the one shot, now present in this. It's like reading a different book, even that part that you've quote unquote read before, because it presents as, oh, I didn't understand that that's what that meant because I put it back in the original order. You see things in the way that I originally intended it, and it means something different to you this time. And then kind of enriches the experience to go into, another 100+ pages of the book, and it just works on a level that I'm really, really proud of.
The book's finished, right? You just need to
Yeah,
print it and ship it?
we're in the home stretch. It's another thing that I'm really proud about this campaign. So last year when we did the one shot, we did a pretty good job about turnaround. I think we ran it in May, and we had books in people's hands, or at least I shipped like the last of October and beginning of November. And I mean, it's a little bit of a chunk of time there, but like, I don't know about you, but I've backed things on Kickstarter before where I get the book 2 years later and completely forgotten that I even backed it. And like, what is this
Yeah.
arriving in the mail? Like, I have no memory of this. So our turnaround was really good. Our turnaround is going to be even better this time, because of the success of the first campaign. One of the advantages of that was I got to turn Annie loose right away, and Dave Lentz started doing the lettering right away. So we're actually in the last 10 pages of the book right now, and I'm finishing up some of the back matter stuff that we hit as a stretch goal fairly recently. So turnaround, like when the book arrives in your hands, is going to be about the same, like late October, early November, and yet the thing ends, in 2 weeks in September. So basically, almost exactly like you're ordering it out of previews and it's in the
Mm.
comic shop 2 months later. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm really proud of that too.
I like your hardcover wraparound.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Like one of the things that I wanted to do a little bit differently this time was, I still wanted to feel exclusive the way that Kickstarter kind of does things with comics, but I also wanted to be very affordable for people. So plan from day one, and you and I talked about this last year. Plan from day one was, however successful the one shot campaign was going to be, as soon as we hit the goal spot that made sure that production was paid for, right? Artist, letter, printing, shipping, stuff like that. Every single penny above that did not go to me. I did not pay myself at all. I did not take a single penny to even pay myself back for the original investment. The joke is, I'm a public school teacher. We make 12 cents a year. I'll be fine. Every single penny of that Kickstarter went to defray the cost of this one. Just because a year went by didn't mean that it's still, I mean, you can look down on it, go to the Kickstarter page, and you go down to the bottom at my transparency section. You can see it's a $23,000 campaign. We started with a goal of 5,500 because of the ability to defray the cost from before. The other thing that I'm really, really pleased about, and this is a bit more recent, is I wanted the books themselves to be affordable. No Kickstarter inflation, even though these are exclusive, awesome covers. Okay, the wraparound hardcover by Sina Grace, comic book superstar. The wraparound soft cover by Laura Nalepa, who is also a public school teacher like me, an art teacher who is about to explode on the comic scene and be much more famous than I am. There's a little bit of an NDA going on right now, but a deal has been cut, and you're going to know her name way above mine on a marquee in a matter of months. But if you'll notice the price point on those, it's not that inflated Kickstarter cost of a very fancy cover, right? It literally translates to exactly what it would cost on the shelf of your local bookstore, your Barnes and Noble, at Amazon, in your comic shop. So the softcover wraparound, which is now going to be busting out at about 150 pages with the back matter that we funded, and the hardcover the same, are only $20 and only $40, right? Instead of that inflated cost. So that's something else I'm really, happy about. Now, financially, what does that do to me? Not great things, which is why we're still taking this campaign to the end. I'm still really, really underwater, but like, that's not the point. The point is this book that means so much to me on a personal level. This book that means so much to me as like an educator and getting it in people's hands, and the message and the positive things that I think that it can do. The most important thing is getting it in people's hands at the most affordable way that we can, which is pricing it reasonably as opposed to, a collector's item. Now, having said that, I have not forgotten my comic nerd collector friends, because I am one of you. I am split down the middle. I'm a 50% reader and a 50% collector. So if you go explore the page, one of the things you'll find is, look, you want your unbelievable rare item, you want your thing that nobody else can get. We are doing one of two. There's two giveaways on there, one brand new and one that's been there since day one. And one lucky backer of the project, okay, still a couple weeks left. One lucky backer of the project will be winning my very own copy of that 9.8 slab of that Donnie Darko foil variant from the parallel days. Only 100 of these were made. They sold out in like 10 minutes. We saw a 9.6 go online for like $400 last year. I'm giving away the 9.8. So that's just, you back it at any level and you get chances to enter it. And then what people need to check out right now is, we hit some of our real low stretch goals and we added a couple more. And one of them is a giveaway. And if we have just a couple more people grab the collector's bundle of the that tier on the Kickstarter, Annie is giving away 3 pieces of commissioned original art to 3 random people from that tier. And I think there's only 2 of those spots left as of this recording. And then, that's original art that you can win. So I haven't forgotten my collectors. I haven't forgotten my, I need something, like that. That's still on there. Because like I said, that's me too.
That's so cool. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody doing a giveaway on a Kickstarter. That's so, it's very creative.
Yeah.
Well, where are you going to be at this year? Where can people find you?
Well, anybody can find me anytime on Instagram at jdouglaswrites, right? Hit me up and we'll chat and we'll talk. Coming up, I'm at Monroe Comic Con in about 2 weeks. I think that's that's the 3rd week of September. And then I'm a guest at Grand Rapids Comic Con in November. I think that's like the 2nd biggest show in Michigan. And then we'll see what 2025 holds, and we'll get that book out to people. So go check out the Kickstarter. Support a local teacher, support an indie creator, and get a really good book in your hand that is appropriate for you and your mom and your kid.
Before we go, dead or alive, who would you like to make a comic book with? Your dream team?
Well, my inspiration, my hero is Neil Gaiman. I would love to do something with him, but he doesn't need my help. And, he doesn't need my help as a writer. And, nobody wants my art. So, gosh, depending on what kind of story I was doing, if I could get like any single artist to draw something I wrote, it would probably be Mike Mignola, just because his art is my favorite art all time. That would probably be the dream.
Right. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Hey, thanks for having me on again. Honestly, like, it's always a lot of fun to talk to you. I think we were determining this is like my 4th time on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe I'll go for a record. I think we should keep doing this. But yeah, look, indie comics, support them, right? Whether they're in your local comic shop already or on Kickstarter, your dollar goes a long way to putting, we're talking about food on the table, clothes on the back of a lot of creators who are just trying to keep their dream alive. So if my campaign's the one that you want to support, fantastic, love it. Lots of cool stuff on there, lots of cool stuff to win. But definitely check out your indie creators, okay? A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of time and a lot of effort goes into that. Give them a look.
Appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
My pleasure.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comicchatauthority? Oh, come on. Subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.